Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Center for Conscious Living. You have Spencer, Renee, and Lori here with you on this Mother's Day. And before we begin, I would like to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there, all you mothers, all you figures who played a mother role in anybody's life. I know I have lots of people who've done so. You don't have to be my biological mom to have that role. So thank you for your guidance and wisdom and courage and everything that you've given us. Hope you enjoy this day. Um, as many of you are all aware, we are Spiritual Center for Conscious Living, a 501c3 public charity that's dedicated to offering innovative spiritual teachings from a variety of scholars and masters across space and time. So um, this month, we are focusing on our May series is aligning with divine presence and power. And our topic today with Renee is opening to divine presence. So without further ado, before I hand it off to her, I will say one of our efforts and part of our reason for changing our format as well as including a YouTube audience. So if you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, hello to both of you. Both of those audiences, please feel free. We want this to be a conversation. Please feel free to comment, like, share, all of those good things that social media offers. Please do so. I am here to look over those comments, and we will be responding to them later and including you in a conversation. So please make use of those features if you feel so moved. With that being said, Renee, if you'd like to begin.
Thank you. So this is I'm in a new space. I just moved and I've been working on a renovation for a little beach bungalow. So I'm just moved in. So if you need my sound to be higher, let me know, Spencer, because it's a kind of a new structure for me too, new format. I should say new container maybe. So welcome everybody, and we're glad you're here. Happy Mother's Day. Today we're going to begin our May series, which, as Spencer said, is about the purpose of it is to learn how to align with divine presence and power. And the reason I felt this was a timely conversation for us to have and wisdom for me to share in the May series is it's something I talk about every single week. In fact, in every gathering we have. During the pandemic, we had to pull it back like everyone else in having, our face-to-face gatherings. So we did more virtual gatherings and phone conversations. For those of you who wanted some one-on-one support, we did a lot of that. And we always began with aligning with divine presence and power. We always do, we always will in some way. And here's why. Until you do that, you're merely using your human abilities. However magnificent those are, they're nothing compared to the power that creates worlds. And when a person is dealing with stress, it is biologically, statistically proven you're not at your best. So even when I say stress, it could be a little bit of frustration, sadness. It could be anxiety. It could be full out fear, anger. It could be just, whether it's a little bit of stress, a medium amount of stress, or full blown. Any of those things, your brain doesn't function as well. Your nervous system goes into survival mode, which tells your brain to focus on that and not some of the more expansive capacities that your brain normally would offer you. So I want to ask yourself a question right now. Your normal daily environment, how stressful is it? How chaotic is it? How calm is it? How empowering is it? How depleting is it? How nurturing is it? Hopefully it's more so than not. I also hope that if it's less than a high number, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, if it's less than a 8, 9, 10, I hope you'll be very honest with yourself without judging yourself or anyone else in your environment who's participating in why it's not peaceful, empowering, nurturing, calm, joy filled, love filled, light filled. Rather than judging yourself or blaming anyone else or even condemning yourself and feeling shame, please be honest with yourself. That's the first step in any kind of not just self-growth, but spiritual growth, is the awareness of exactly what is happening, exactly what is true or not true, exactly what is desirable or not desirable, exactly how you're creating what you speak about in words or think about in your thoughts as what you choose, compared with what you're experiencing, because what you're experiencing is actually what you're choosing, or you wouldn't be manifesting it. It is not the other person's fault, not because their behavior might not be complementary to your desire, supportive of your desire, whether that behavior is full-blown toxic or annoying or just less than desirable, just not, neutral, but not what you choose. No matter what the range is, you are co-creating that dance. And you cannot make any change in your life that is deeply empowered and sustainable with ease, not sustainable with effort. We're not wanting to teach you how do you create with a big hammer, constantly hammering away at all the problems. I mean, what's the point in that? That's not using divine presence and power. And if you're living an experience where you're constantly, you're in a boat and the water's pouring out and the waves are pouring in, and the bucket, you're just constantly, filling the bucket and trying to stay ahead of the boat collapsing, the boat going under, that boat is your life. And the person creating that mess of the hole that's depleting, it might be others depleting you, but who's giving them permission? The waves coming in, it might be others doing that, but who's invited them into your experience and allowing them to stay in your experience? And it might not be a single person, it might be a collective energy of family, of multiple relationships, not just one. And it could be how you approach life in general. We call that spiritually your consciousness. It is your consciousness. So please take a moment, take a breath right now. The kitty's exploring still. You might see him roaming around. So please just be really lovingly, tenderly self-aware. I'll give an example from the move I just had, the renovation project. It was 90% amazing, glorious, beautiful, wonderful people, supportive, joyful, thoughtful, caring, generous, mutually between all of us. And then there was a little part of it that was incredibly stressful. Thankfully, just a little part of it. But that little part of it was taking the joy from the rest of it at some point. At one point it was tipping the scale. And so I just addressed it. What is my role? I co-created this with this other person involved. It's so important that you don't undermine that the other person is doing. You have to find this balance. The other person or the group of people, yes, this is their behavior. And yes, it doesn't feel good. It's not what I want in my life. You have to be so honest about that with yourself before you address it with them. Because if you're not honest with yourself before you address it with them, you're just projecting on them and you're giving your power away, because you're not saying, I created this. So how did I not know I was creating that? What's the gift of awareness here? The speed bumps in life are divine presence, as well as the beauty and joys of life. The speed bumps are saying divine presence is here, showing you lovingly, not for harm, for shame, for sadness, showing you, beloved, this is what you're creating. You might want to pull up and align differently before you keep going in this creation experience. Because if you keep going at this frequency, you're just going to keep creating more. So you want to, whenever that you hit a speed bump in life, you want to say, okay, I created that. Lovingly, don't beat yourself up. Okay, I created that. So you have the balance of, first of all, I created that. Let me assess that. Wonder, how did I create that unknowingly? What do I need to choose differently? How do I need to align differently? And so from there, once you align to the higher frequency that you thought you were holding, but by the outward experience, it's obvious you are not holding it. And I want to address that before we go to the second point. I want to be so clear. I see this with beautiful, loving spiritual beings like me, like you, all of us. We want to be so good to other people that we will endure way too much that is difficult and stressful and unnecessary chaos from other people's choices of dramatic lifestyles, chaotic lifestyles, toxic lifestyles. We will endure too much trying to be a good, spiritual, loving being. Well, please hear this. Take a breath. There's nothing spiritual about that. It's toxic. It's not spiritual. There's nothing wise about that. It's toxic. It's not wise. There's nothing loving about that toward yourself or others. It's toxic, not loving. We have to stop doing that to ourselves. We are not helping other people when we endure their chaos in the name of love, in the name of spirituality, in the name of being a good person. Who are we fooling? Who are we bullshitting? Ourselves. And who are we being toxic toward? Ourselves. And who are we enabling and teaching? That's a perfectly fine way to treat me. Go ahead and do more. All the behaviors we don't want. We're saying yes to that. And the universe, the frequency that we call the universe, it's a big frequency of what do you want, dear one? Oh, you like chaos. Well, you have the right to have chaos if you want it. Here's more. Here's more. You use the words of I want this or that feels good, but your frequency is, but I will tolerate the chaos and call that being loving and good and kind and caring and spiritual. And so the universe says, well, okay, if that's the highest frequency you choose, then that's what we will support you in, beloved. We must stop doing that to ourselves. And we're not helping anyone when we do that. How can we be of any use in this world when we constantly stay in environments that deplete us, that drain us, that create stress, that we're just tap dancing through it, trying to stay in a high vibration? Well, the boat is leaking on one end and the wave is pouring in on the other end. That is not what we came here as blended beings, human and spiritual. We did not come here to say, boy, let me have as much chaos as I can and show how spiritually strong I am because I get through it, and we've all done it. I've done that in my life. That's how I know it so well. And I determined to find different ways of doing it and help others as well. My kitty, I'm using his cat tree today because I don't have everything set up. So he's up behind me now. He's going to peek around. Hope he doesn't disconnect us. Hey, baby. So you might see my little guy, Murray, peek his head in. So what I want to say to you, come here, sweetheart. There you go, baby. This is my guy. So what I want to say to you about that is this. The second part of it is, once you're aligned, you have the awareness, you've hit the speed bump, you have the awareness. Now you're aligned to the higher frequency because you were not afraid to admit to yourself and accept that what your life experience is showing you is the frequency you're holding. When you have the courage to face that without self-judgment, self-condemnation, or blaming others or shaming others, then you can say, now you go to the second part and you say, now, first over here, how do I balance? This is what I've created. This is what other people are doing. This is what life is showing me. And they have a part in it, absolutely. But yet, I'm the one who's allowing it. So now, what is my role? So here's what's going on. Thank you for the gift of awareness. I co-created this. I rendezvoused with somebody else's lifestyle choices that are stressful, unfair, unreasonable, demanding, or just, zoned out, or perhaps, truly toxic, cruel, harmful, degrading, depleting, even can cause devastating results. So you admit that, and then you go, okay, now that's one side. Now you have to balance that with, and now what am I going to do for me, about me? Not forcing the other people. You don't try to drag them over. So you don't say, you have to, so in this situation I just shared, I was dealing with someone who has very poor time management skills, and it caused a lot of chaos for everyone, the whole team working on this project. And so I had to just finally come to the realization, I can't teach this person time management skills. Not that I'm not capable of teaching, but you teach a person who wants to be taught, first of all, and admits that they need help. And then secondly, is it the appropriate time? I didn't have time to teach time management skills. I needed someone to just do what they said they would do in the timeline we agreed on, or admit that they could not, and just let it go. And then I would have to come up with plan B. So I assessed. I had this co-creative dance with this stressful time thing. And I could realize, wow, that goes back to something I learned I had to do to try to get along with my mother and all her stress. She was very chaotic about time. So then it's like a gift of awareness. Now I shift. All right, now I choose self-empowerment. I choose to align with divine presence and embrace divine power. That'll be part 3 of our series this month. And I'm going to now make a higher vibrational choice. What is best for me? I start there. What is it I truly want that's different from what I've been creating? And it may be different from what I initially said I wanted, because now I have the gift of awareness of a new experience. And so I did, I adjusted it. And I said, you know what? I don't care if this person finishes that job or not. I want the chaos to end more than I want to get out a big hammer and make this happen. So I just gave the person the opportunity. This is it. Deadline is today. Whatever you finish, we're done. Do what you want or walk away. Fine with me, either one. I'm just gonna move on. I'm just gonna adjust. Whatever I have to do to adjust. Because the peace for myself and the rest of people who were so stressed because of it, and openly, thankfully, honest about it, we just came together and said, okay, we're going to regroup. And we did. And we got it done so much easier. And you know what happened? The laughter returned. We all were laughing. We were having fun again. We were enjoying it instead of enduring and getting through it, right? So let me repeat what I just said. There's step 1, the awareness. I created this toxic or stressful or disappointing experience. In other words, whatever is less than what you asked for, what you thought you were asking for, what you thought you were creating, what you thought and hoped and expected to manifest in coordination with divine presence and power. So you would get honest with yourself. Wow, look at what I created. I thought it would be this, and it's not. It's something else. And feel it. We're going to do more of that in the second part next week. Feel it. And then, okay, now that I have let it be and quit resisting it, quit pretending it's not disappointing or frustrating or depleting or just full-blown toxic, whatever that is in your situation. Instead of admitting, instead of denying it, rather, you admit it. You just admit it to yourself. You don't even have to admit it to anyone else if you don't want to, but you must admit it to yourself. You and your relationship with the divine must always be clean and clear and open and truthful for you, about how you feel about someone else's behavior, not about their behavior, about how you feel about your experiences with others, not about them. What they do is for them to do. That's theirs to manage. When we get our house in order, maybe we can help others, right? And when somebody asks for help, yes, we do help, but you can't try to drag that other person over to the second part of the beautiful flow. The first flow being, oh, let me look at what I'm doing. Now my energy is free to flow into the other side of this beautiful infinity loop. And you say, all right, now from a higher frequency, what do I choose? And what I choose is to not micromanage someone else, not try to tell them they need to be a better time manager. That person has the right to not manage time well. They absolutely have the right to look that way. And I have the right to not want to coordinate any kind of creative project with a person who doesn't choose a time management that's a little more compatible, that's mostly compatible or perfectly compatible. I get to choose that, not by controlling them, but by holding that frequency so that is who I gather in my energy field for all that I'm doing. And then I'm in this space now, and I'm empowered. And now I can flow back into this other space with all the people I'm creating with, and the joy returns, and the ease returns, because the flow of divine presence and power has returned. All right. So let's take a breath. Let's have an energy activation before we go into our conscious conversation. I'm going to get a drink of water. All right, let's take a breath, please. Spencer has some lovely music. Let me know if I need to speak louder or we're in a new environment, so we need to adjust, of course. What I ask of you, beautiful being, is that you clear your mind and drop into your heart and feel divine presence. It is not something you have to work for. It is not something you have to earn. Divine presence is always, in everything, in every moment, in every situation, in every living being, every living sentient being, human being, creature, all of nature, the core of our beautiful earth and everything in it and on it and out into the cosmos. Divine presence is. We cannot ever snuff it out. We cannot ever push it away. We simply allow it and enjoy it, or we stay unknowingly disconnected from it. But it's not because it's not there. So allow yourself to feel divine presence. What does that feel like for you? Does it feel like ease? Does it feel like clarity? Does it feel like peacefulness? Does it feel like the softest, purest, deepest love? Maybe a love you've never even experienced with human beings, or maybe you've had moments of it, maybe you've had lots of it. But even if you are someone who's not experienced that with other human beings, let yourself experience it with the divine, with God force, with life force, the power that creates worlds, spirit, the angels, whatever concept of that, of divine presence is you most resonate with. Allow yourself to feel that loving, guiding, supportive presence. You don't have to prove anything or earn anything. It just is. Just let yourself receive it. Allow it to enfold you, soothe you, uplift you. And now take a breath. And think of an experience, perhaps the one we were you just brought to mind as I was speaking earlier. So bring that experience back and hold it outside of you for a moment. Like you're watching it on a movie screen, a computer screen, a TV screen, the screen on your phone. You're watching it as a video or outside a window. You're just watching it. It's not impacting you. It's just happening. You're not in it. It's not in you, but you might see yourself in this movie screen playing out up on a stage. But you're safe as a viewer, observing it. And ask yourself, am I ready to allow myself to go back into the experience with the gift of awareness that I created something I didn't want, and enter now from a higher vibration, not trying to change other people, not trying to change what has been, what has happened, making peace with what is, and choosing to create anew from this higher frequency of divine presence. Am I willing to trust that with divine presence, I can just allow myself to have the experience without it having me? I will have it. It will not have me. And what I mean by that is you will come in with clean, clear intention to choose higher frequency experience as you move forward. The old experience doesn't have to be drug into the new experience. It can literally shift in a moment, in an hour, in a day. And it's not wrong if it takes a week or a month or a year. I caution you, if you need it to take longer, why are you holding on to the discomfort, the negative, whether that ranges from discomfort, frustration, irritation, disappointment, sadness, anger, grief, heartbreak, rage, full-blown toxicity? Why would you choose to continue that when you can let it go in a moment and start fresh? Nurture yourself through that choice into resolution. If you need support, You can go to our website. It shows you how to reach out to me. You can make comments here. You can join in the conversation in just a few moments. Ask questions. If you're watching the replay, you can do that later and we will respond. Revisit your choice right now. Do you choose to align with divine presence, accepting what is as something you chose unknowingly to align with that was less than what your words and your thoughts expressed, but it was not less than your frequency? Without judgment or condemnation, without trying to change the others to make them be the creator of your experience. Accept it. And now let it go, shift, flow over to the other side of the beautiful infinity loop. And now open to divine presence fully, higher. When you open to it, you will go into the frequency that matches your ability to align with divine presence. The degree of love you're experiencing in your life that is pure, meaning without chaos, without having to suffer to have it, that is the capacity to which you allow divine presence. The abundance you allow without chaos and shame and blame and discomfort, that is also the frequency that aligns with your ability to receive divine presence. The amount of health and vitality you experience without this making it 100% your focus, having to constantly hammer it into place, taking 24, 50 medications. I'm not saying don't take them, do what your doctor tells you, but examine for yourself why you're creating that. That is the outer measurement mirror for you to see. That is the degree to which you allow divine presence. That's all it is. There's no judgment. The divine is there 100%. What degree do you allow divine presence? How often do you align with divine presence before you begin a creative experience? And a creative experience is every moment. It happens every moment, every moment, every moment. Take a breath, please. And exhale. And now let's come back and get grounded before we go into our conversation. So I want you to open your field, all energy centers, not just the primary chakras that we all know and assign colors to and have a lot of joy learning about. Every energy center of your body, whether you understand that or not, you just have to agree to receive the activation. Open all your energy fields to divine presence and power, not to another person, not to the planet, not to anything other than pure source, the divine, the light of the one. And now, allow yourself to be grounded fully in your body, your mind clear, your heart open. Make sure you're feeling fully back into your body. You might need to move your body about a little bit, especially your lower body, your feet, your legs, your hips. Shake your booty maybe. When you're ready, open your eyes and come back and join us for conscious conversation. Before we do that, I think Lori wants to have a few minutes of conversation about our center and kind of we have a little we'll have our announcements. Let's see, while she's getting grounded a little bit, let me say this. Next, so the series, if you want to see about our series, I put up a Facebook event. It's also on our webpage, SCfCL.org or Spiritual Center for Conscious Living.org, whichever is your preference. You can go to the schedule of events page and you'll see our series for the month. So this is week 1, as Spencer told you, opening to divine presence. Next week will be part 2, finding your focus and flow. And then the third week will be being one with divine power. And then the fourth Sunday is the weekend. In the United States, it's a holiday weekend, so we will have that weekend off. But whenever we have a weekend off, I put up a pre-scheduled post to help you ground in and invite you to re-experience portions of the month series. All through the month, I welcome any comments, whether they're live or later. I will respond generally within 24 hours. And the rest of the group, if you want to address it to them, I'll make sure they see it and they will respond to you. So, Lori, are you back in your body, ready to have a conversation?
I think so. That was absolutely awesome. Many times after our Sunday service, I will hit up Renee and go, this was written right for me, wasn't it? I know, being a little more involved, that a lot of these are written and the topics are chosen months in advance. But this particular Sunday truly hit home with me and everything I've been dealing with for the last year. And just that phrase alone just struck me as dealing with, one of the reasons why I am involved with the center and I choose to put my joyous energy here is because I know firsthand the impact that we have on lives. And one little, not even 1 hour segment can really change mind frames. And with that little flip of a thought pattern, complete 180s have been made in my life over the last 3 years. And it is just amazing how when things just seem to be out of control, one little session, one little bit of time taken for ourselves to ground, to really get connected, makes a difference. And not only in our lives, but everyone else around. Because when we remove the chaotic energy and add to it some grounding, uplifting energy, it's like we've taken all the oxygen out of a fire. Things just settle down. We didn't throw water on it to spread it and splash it around in case there was oil and underneath it. But we just went, whew, done, absolutely done. And it's this is why all of my joyous energy, whether it's financial, whether it's all of the things that we do to keep this going, and it's why this is my passion, this is my purpose. And I invite everyone to just throw a little bit of energy out there into the universe. It's something that makes a difference to you. Hopefully that's us. If not, that's okay. We will expand that anyway. Give us a little like, give us a little share. If you're watching this today, there's a reason you're watching this today. You may have listened to everything going, really? No, I don't think so. But maybe somebody else needs this. And that's why you're watching today. Share this with someone else. And if you can spare just a little bit of cash flowing our way, we've got lots of ways for you to do that electronically and really easily. And if I had my video on, you could see me with my phone, because that's how I do most of my transactions monetarily these days. And you don't have to have a PayPal account to hit us up with PayPal. We have a PayPal me link, and And we have a donate button that'll go straight to a credit card. So we really, really appreciate that. And if you do still enjoy, if it gives you abundant joy to sit down and write a check out, our address is on our webpage. And Spence and Renee have said this before, that it's SCfCL.org, or you want to spell it all out, take a little bit more time, relax into it. You can spell out Spiritual Center for Conscious Living.org. It's all good. Slow down your roll. And that's what I've been trying to do this weekend, is just slow down my roll, engage with the power that has created this wonderful universe and world around me. And it's just been absolutely joyous. So thank you all for sharing your energy with us today. And hopefully you got as much out of it as we did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. Before I hand it back to Spencer, I just want to say that Lori brought up the idea of sharing energy. The reason we do that is because it is important for your well-being that as you receive, you also give in proportion to your situation. So if you're in a situation where you have overflowing abundance, then we welcome you sharing some of that with us in the form of a PayPal contribution, in the form of a check, as Lori said. If you are in a situation where what's appropriate for you is to, in proportion to your situation, is to share the video, make a comment, give us a like or a love, then we receive that too. Your presence is a way of sharing energy. So just by you being here on a regular basis, that is supporting our center with the gift of your energy, your presence. And we thank you for that. So we thank you. And I want to bless every form of energy that is coming to us from you today, whether you're with us live or listening to us later. So let's just bless that. Let's just take a moment and just hold that. I like to do that between my palms, just like symbolize it as an orb of light. The gift of your presence, we give thanks for. The gift of your participation in the conversation or sharing the video, liking, loving, we give thanks for. The gift of your financial contributions, whether they came in today or earlier in the week, we give thanks for. And we know that you are blessed equally, not just in the form that you expanded your energy here. You will be blessed in every form of energy that you choose in your life, that you need, that you desire, that you choose to have and experience. We hold that space now. We know it as true. We give thanks to beloved source. However you like to name that energy, God force, life force, the power that creates worlds, beautiful spirit, beloved source energy. We thank you for all the bountiful, beautiful gifts of life. We open to receive them more and more and more, allowing us to then share them in our life with others and with all living beings, sentient beings, and the planet itself, more and more and more. And so it is. All right, Spencer, it's off to you now.
This brings us to our conversation piece, and I don't know if we have anything to start us off.
Yes, thank you. I like you to kind of set the new direction. So here's what I thought we might talk about. I'm looking at my notes for a second. I want to ask you something. Now, those of you listening, please participate. Spencer will let us know if you make a comment or have a question that you'd like us to answer or address. I thought what might be interesting to talk about is just to share, Lori and Spencer, as you listen today to the message or what you might have experienced during I call it a meditative energy activation. In what ways in your life are you now, or have you learned so that you're no longer, but you at once were and you no longer? In what ways are you letting an experience have you versus you having it? Meaning you're sovereign. You have mastered your energy, and you're sovereign in it. And you might be observing it and saying, that's not what I thought I was creating, but obviously it is what I was creating because it's here. So what do I want to do now? So that kind of a question, and like, and along the same line, how have you learned to see those speed bumps, as we call them, speed bumps in life, as gifts of awareness instead of, oh, I totally messed up. I did this wrong. I'm bad. I'm less than. I'm not good enough. I'm whatever. How do you just, the things that the world might tell you, is a mistake, a failure. Instead, how have you learned to see them as just gifts of awareness to, I'm miscreating. I'm not creating what I thought I was. So now I want to clearly create anew. So that's what I thought would be fun to talk about. Who wants to start? If you choose to.
I think I can start. For me, historically in my family, we've had some challenges with cancer creeping in and being demolished, and creeping in again and being demolished. And for me personally, my personal energy, I've been able to eradicate that. And I struggle with helping others do the same. And really, what unconditional love means in regards to people who are having issues handling their own energy, to do for themselves similar situations. And it's a real big thing. I mean, cancer is no joke. It's really life altering. And
May I?
a difficult vote. Yes, ma'am, you may.
Well, I didn't want to cut you off. I thought maybe you needed a moment to.
I do need a moment. I'm getting a little teary-eyed.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to stop you from sharing anything.
Yeah, no.
If I
Just so,
okay.
I wobble a lot in holding my own energy around others and doing for myself and taking care of me and saying, I do love you unconditionally, and I'm not accepting that behavior, knowing that it's related to your wobbly energy, around how you're dealing with your own disease.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very difficult thing to do.
Well, Lori, I want to just say, I just have total chills right now. I want to thank you for the courage to say that, because that it's not just cancer. So anyone listening, I'm going to address that. And then of course, Spencer might want to add something too, is I'm going to address that. And I'm going to be very, very strong in how I address it, spiritually strong, sound, grounded. Okay. Because that is one of the most common causes of humanity's stress in our relationships. And so thank you, Lori, for having the courage to bring that up. And it could be a person listening, you might not relate because you're not dealing with something that like cancer. You might be dealing with another health issue that you can relate to, similar, or maybe not as severe, but still, very, very challenging. But what if you're dealing with financial situation where you're challenged to have your basic living expenses met? See, that's a form of trauma, just like something health related as severe as cancer, right? So what we're talking about, we want to get to the energy of it, the consciousness of it. What we're talking about is a person in a situation where they themselves or their loved ones are dealing with a trauma that is so severe, it is potentially life-threatening, such as not being able to maintain your home and having food and clean water, something health related like cancer or many other things. It also could be abusive relationships. It could be relationships, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, toxicity in the home. It could be a person doesn't feel they don't financially have the ability to leave. It happens a lot, whether it's a female or a male. The ability to leave, maybe children, take the children and be able to do it and have the means to do it. And so they try to manage an environment of toxicity. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with anybody who has, let's say you're not the person who has that, but you're trying to be, as Lori said, unconditional loving, supporting somebody who is dealing with something very severe, and you care about them. So you want to do what you can to support them. So I want to talk about unconditional love. There is in the human experience a complete, I'm going to say bogus to be polite, but I would also use a different word, completely horrible, detrimental understanding of unconditional love. Unconditional love is not tolerating other people's toxic behavior. It is not tolerating other people's unnecessary drama that they might get off on, but it's toxic to you. It's actually toxic to them, but they might still be getting off on it. Meaning, when I say get off on, I mean, it gives them a charge. It gives them a sense of aliveness rather than aliveness coming in a healthy form, you know? And it doesn't matter who it is. I'm not saying don't love them, but be honest that that's toxic, and they allow them unconditional love. And this is a definition from Abraham, the teachings of Abraham. And I love this. Unconditional love is you choosing to stay in alignment with divine love, regardless of what's going on in other people's experiences. So somebody who's choosing, let's bring up addictions, because we think of addiction as drug addiction, alcohol addiction, food addiction, gambling addiction, sex addiction, shopping addiction. I don't know. There's all kinds of things. We think of addictions as behaviors. Addiction is choosing chaos and drama. And however that plays out, you know, it's choosing chaos and drama. You're choosing chaos for you're ingesting chaos into your body through some kind of, you know, thing. It could be a healthy food, but you eat 3 times what is good for you, right? And I'm not suggesting we judge ourselves for it at all. I really encourage you not to, because when you judge yourself, you won't be honest with yourself, because the most painful thing you can do is judge yourself, which disconnects you from divine love, divine wisdom, divine guidance. It's so painful that we avoid being honest with ourselves because we don't want to go there. So if you learn to stop judging yourself, you will be much more self-wise, self-loving, and then align with the divine and take more empowered self-care of yourself. So let's say, okay, the human, when we disconnect from divine presence and power, we're in mere human form, and we get addicted to pulling energy from other people because we're desperate. You know, we're desperate. We don't feel empowered. When somebody's going through a severe challenge, like the ones we just talked about, we do want to help them. They do need help. They are out of alignment, and we can help them get grounded, but we don't do it by letting them deplete us. And we don't do it by enduring toxicity and saying, well, that makes me a good, loving, spiritual person. That is choosing let me give you a picture of that. And I'm not just talking to you, Lord, I'm like everybody. When we choose that, and we've all done it, I've done it too. When we choose that, what we're doing is we're saying, this person is drowning. Oh, to help them, I have to drown with them. Let me just get in the pool, the lake, the ocean. And instead of bringing them to shore safely, I'm just going to let them drown me. Because if I don't, that means I don't have unconditional love. Well, see, and you can see the ridiculousness of that. But the problem is when we see them hurting, we go back into old programming that came from maybe childhood or traumatic experiences we've endured. And we don't want people to have those traumas. So we try to prevent them. What we're doing, and I say this with absolute love, and I say it very strongly, we're playing God in their lives. We're trying to be the God for them instead of holding space and supporting them to find divine alignment themselves. And if we do that for them, that's what enabling really is. Enabling isn't giving them permission to use a substance, although it may play out like that. But the underlying energy of it is we're giving them permission to never become a self-empowered, spiritually empowered, spiritually mature, evolved human in alignment with divine presence and power in all they do and say. Not everyone will choose that. So I think generally when we find ourselves doing that, the most important question to ask is, why am I doing that? Leave them, stop trying to rescue them, and ask yourself, gosh, why am I doing that? Am I afraid they won't choose it? So I'm spoon feeding them because they may not. But see, if you're an empowered person, you don't want to be spoon fed. You want to feed yourself, right? So it doesn't feel good to be spoon fed. There'll be resentment that builds up because it's even though its intention might be to keep them from harm, it's still a form of controlling them, playing God. See, so that is what we need to understand. Unconditional love is choosing to trust and align with divine presence and power, which is divine love, divine joy, divine peace within yourself, no matter what anyone else is doing. That's unconditional love. It's not loving them through the mud with them. It is not that. That is that you can't help somebody when you're drowning with them. We are of no use to anyone when we do that. And I don't say that as a criticism to anyone listening. I have such compassion for the temptation to do that. When you love someone and you want so much for their hurting and their discomfort and their illness and their financial stress and their toxic relationship stress, you want it to end. But the bottom line is they are a sovereign being, even when they're not choosing to be. And we do not have the authority to play God in their lives. And when we do that, we're abdicating our own journey. We're making ourselves less important, less valuable, less worthy. And that's not who we are. We are disconnecting ourselves from divine power and presence when we do that. Spencer, you want to chime in, add anything, ask a different question?
No, I've been reading a book this week from a clinical social worker about healing from hidden abuse and healing from and learning about toxic personalities because I guess getting back to the overall topic of creating what's new, in my past and in retrospective, I've noticed the type of people that I do let into my life, I do tend to let take advantage of my kindness, my generosity, and my spirit. And it's really so I wanted to read, I saw this book on my library app and I'm like, oh, it's available now. And, it's, something I'm curious about, something that I've been through, and I know I'm aware, I have that awareness, as we talked about, of that's something I've experienced, and my choice to create anew is that I don't want that. So arming yourself with the knowledge is the first step to breaking free of those cycles. So what you're saying is I think unconditional love is a phrase. Unconditional love exists. However, I think that people throw it around, and it also can become a tool for those people with traits. I'm talking specifically people that have psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies, or narcissistic tendencies to throw that around. Well, you don't love me unconditionally. Unconditional love can be a red flag. I just want to encourage people to be aware that unconditional love should not be used against you. It should not be people should not be saying you're not loving me unconditionally if you do this.
If you allow toxicity.
Well, yeah, if a person says to you that, well, because you stood up for yourself, if somebody says to you, you don't love me unconditionally, then they don't love you unconditionally. Just because they said that. Like, that's a huge red flag if that's how they feel. And true unconditional love starts with yourself. So that's another thing that I've had to learn too, is that you need to love I don't say you cannot love unconditionally, but it's very hard to. You have to love yourself unconditionally first. So that's, some of the awareness that I've been going through has to deal with specifically, why do I let people with these toxic traits into my life, or that I allow them to deplete my energy, or situations. Renee, you asked, how have we let the experience have us versus that? Like, I know, just very simple, your example about the work thing, it happens all the time. Especially with people who care. Like, that's another trait of people who are aware, they care. Like, they care about things. So I had that experience this week at work with a new coworker, and me coming in, and I don't have, it's just an interim job for me right now, but I care about it, and I've been getting less and less hours, which is fine, because again, it's an interim job. However, I was letting the experience have me when I came in. I think it was my third part-time shift, and I was doing more work than the 3 people who are being paid full-time. I was doing more work in my part-time, so I was doing like 3 times the amount of work, and I would come in and clean up after all the full-time people. And I had a moment. I let the experience get to me, and I was just, as my family would say, I had a big mat on, and I was just, I was like, well, this isn't right. And I spent the most of my shift being mad, and then I came to this realization that, why you're holding, and one of the people that's full-time is a new hire who's never worked in this field before. And I'm like, you're holding them to an experience, you're holding them to your standard when you have years of experience here. So, like, that's not fair to them. And I was partly feeling frustrated because I tried to teach them, much like you said, Renee, you've tried to teach time management, or you don't have time to teach time management. It's like, to me, is just extremely frustrating. And, I came to this realization that my options were to lower my standard to match theirs, or talk to somebody about it. And I had to, I'm like, well, I can't lower my standard. That's just admitting defeat, lowering my energy level to them. And I just have to and then at that point, I'm either sucking it up and holding resentment, or talking to somebody about it.
Yeah.
And held resentment is just, as I have learned, is just a cancer. It's and not to use that word lightly, but it is a, it's a very,
it's what leads to the physical experience of cancer and many other forms.
It's a very
Oh yeah,
dangerous
absolutely.
position energetically to have. So, I ended up talking to one of my coworkers about it, and he was great. He's somebody who's kind of on the same wavelength as me, and he and I will have these sorts of heart-to-hearts from time to time. And he was great in hearing me about it, and I'll never forget how I said, yeah, I can lower myself to their standards. And he goes, can't do that. And I'm like, I know, I can't. And he encouraged me to talk to my manager about it, which I still didn't feel right about. I didn't want to sound like a complainer. I didn't want to sound, so I just let it go, and I just resolved that, what, next, let there be an opportunity for me to say, it'd make me happier if I had more hours. That way I'm not coming in and cleaning up a mess for somebody else. And I can spend more time with this new person and show them show them how I would do things. And the next day, my manager came up to me and asked me, she's been asking me because I've been interviewing at other jobs. She just said, "Hey, are you leaving us yet?" And she's been asking me that every day. And I just said, listen, Kelly, I will tell you when that time comes. I will not leave you in a lurch. For the time being, just give me as many hours as you can. Just get. And she said, "You want full time?" I said, "Yep, give me the full time hours. Give me everything you
Awesome.
can." So that the next few days, she bumped my schedule up, and my foreseeable future there. So it's, and then the day after that, I got to come in, and that new hire had to hold his own on a very busy day. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a mess, and he's going to get trial by fire. And they put him in a different area, and he actually did amazing. It's like, once I let go of these people doing better and living up to my expectations, it was like, I'm like, hey, this is what I wanted. Thank you. Like, I'm working more. He's working. He's keeping it down, and somebody else taught him how to do that department, and it was so, yeah, like that. Just, it all started with that awareness of, I'm not happy right now, and I'm mad, and just taking it from there, having that awareness, realizing it's okay to talk about it, okay to express it, and then just saying, I'm going to be okay living with this, but I want it to change, and it did. It all presented itself.
Isn't that cool? And I want to address something you brought up too. I think so unconditional love is a concept that is used in gaslighting, what's known as gaslighting. I'll address that in a second. Another one is not being judgmental. So people who are very caring, like we're all of us here, anybody who's drawn to our community, you're very caring, you have an intention to be a spiritual person and loving and generous and kind, and you want to be compassionate, you want to be unconditional loving, non-judgmental. Those are you notice I don't use those words in teaching. I address them and then miscommunication that happens around them. And here's why, because those two phrases are probably, I mean, at the moment, I can't think of any others, the most commonly manipulated concepts that are used to gaslight someone. Meaning, if you loved me unconditionally, you would let me do this toxic behavior or this unkind behavior or this disrespectful behavior. And you would just think it was wonderful because you love me unconditionally. You know, if you weren't judging me, you wouldn't notice that I did this unkind, disrespectful, blatantly manipulative, degrading, or just full-blown toxic behavior. That is total bullshit. That is total manipulation. That is somebody trying to make you feel wrong for being a functioning, healthy, spiritually evolved, humanly aware, enjoyable person. A person who chooses, when I say enjoyable, I mean a person who chooses to enjoy life, not just, I love Lori. Lori says I think you say slap lipstick on a pig. You don't have joy by calling crap that you're enduring joyful. That's not joyful. That is not joy. That is not joy. Look up power versus force. Look at the map of consciousness, and I don't have the book handy, or I read what joy, his description of joy, that frequency, what the frequency of joy manifests in your life. That is the frequency of miracles. Well, miracles don't happen while you're enduring toxic behavior, disrespectful behavior, unkind behavior. We don't have to be, I don't in any way say meet them and don't treat them that way, but we do sometimes have to say enough. And I want to give credit to something. The phrase that I used about, are you having the experience or is it having you? I want to give credit to Jared Hewitt, a teacher I work with, who uses that phrase in his teaching. And another thing he says is, you have to get to a point. Self-love, sacred self-love, is where you say, enough, I choose me. You don't not choose well-being for everyone else. You choose well-being for you. And from that stable, steady, sure vibration, now you offer that same experience, that same energy experience for others. That's what it is. So you say, enough. I choose me. I choose me to feel love. I choose me to have joy. I choose me to enjoy an abiding, peaceful countenance in myself, in my environment. And from there, you let others choose that for themselves, support them if they want, but we can't force somebody else. Like you said, you can't force somebody else to change. And we have to not waste our energy. If the energy that we could spend on one person trying to get them to change, we could support 100 who are ready, willing, and fully open to it. So which way do you want to use your energy? It's not about that you don't love that person. It's that we've had lessons on this in the past. What are you choosing? What is your passion? Are you flowing your energy toward that? Or are you letting others deplete it unnecessarily? Either way, it's a choice to let others deplete, let others keep you drained. Yeah, this is a really great conversation. We can keep going if you guys have anything else you want to add, or if we have any other comments or questions from our viewers.
Do you have any comments come in?
I don't see any comments.
Okay.
Anything
I
you
could
want to add?
I could discuss this all day. However, it is Mother's Day, and we did travel all this way to do Mother's Day breakfast with Alan's mom. So
Nice.
happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there with biological or fur babies, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And all the single parent dads out there that are doing their best to be both roles. Happiest Mother Day.
And happy Mother's Day to everyone, as Spencer said, who mothers, whether you mother fur babies, feather babies, whether you mother other people's children, auntie role, that sort of thing, whether you teacher roles, whether you mother through just supporting loved ones, friends of all ages. We can be mothering to people older than us and younger than us. We can be males, definitely a lot of males are mothering at that beautiful, fine mother, supportive strength and wisdom that is gentle and yet very strong. So let's honor that. Take a moment. Let's honor that in ourselves. And think of someone in your life right now, whether they're alive currently or past, who really gifted you with that. Whether it was, perhaps it's your own mother. And if so, that's wonderful. Add someone else too. Someone else as well. And now let's expand that out into the world. Those we know who've had mothers that were so, whether like mothering energy of any, whatever form it came in, male, female, or other. Let's celebrate that for them, with them. Let's celebrate divine mother energy on planet Earth in every form. So happy Mother's Day. We will see you next week. And in the meantime, be aware of how often are you aligning with divine presence as your go-to in your new creations. And just lovingly shift, to keep shifting and letting that energy rise. Many blessings. We'll see you next Sunday.